All right, so the topics for this week: competitiveness. What's up, Tyler? How to be competitive in PT school. Uncertainty, number 2, and how to control or take control of your destiny.
So yeah, competitiveness as an applicant. Main reason why we're hitting this topic is because, especially on the pre-doctor physical therapy students page, there have been quite a few posts that have been talking about GPA and whether, as an applicant, you are going to be in a good position when you go to apply, when you are submitting everything to the PT school that you're applying to. And so that's why we're going to hit that first part of being a competitive PT school applicant. And then fear of uncertainty as a pre-PT. We all feel that fear because especially once we submitted everything, especially once we feel like we've done our part and things are out of control, it can be a little nerve-wracking. Or when you have a few years or a few months left to go and you're saying, man, like I'm seeing that other people are doing well, but they have higher GPAs than I do. They have better qualifications, I guess you could say to yourself, than you do. And then that could lead to fear. And then taking hold of your destiny. So being in control of what happens to your future as a pre-PT student. So let's start with the first one, Casey, being competitive as a PT school applicant. So I'm a pre-PT, man. And I'm seeing, like my GPA is not where it needs to be. And so we've talked about this in a few other lives, but for those that have not really, listened to any of our conversations and are maybe newer to pre-PT grind, what are some ways we can ensure that we are a competitive applicant as we get ready to not only apply, but go to interviews and even after that?
Yeah, let's hop right into it. All right, so I'm going to make this real simple and straight to the point. How to be competitive, grades. As much as we don't talk about them as much, you've got to have good grades just to meet the standard, that baseline standard, just to be looked at. You can't gloss over it. You can't, if you have a low GPA, you got to get it up. So grades, first and foremost, can't pass over those. Next is to reverse engineer the school. How am I coming through?
You're good.
All right. So first, grades, and second, reverse engineer the school, the program, the faculty, the admissions committee, wherever you're applying. After you have that baseline set of grades, that 3.5 or higher, as we say, reverse engineer where you want to go. And tailor your application to that school to be the most competitive for that school.
Yeah. So what you're saying, Casey, is we should have an idea of the schools that we're targeting, right? So we always talk about picking your top 5 schools, and that comes from really, analyzing your situation. And so what that means is, hey, if GPA is something that you're worried about, and maybe you're applying in 2 to 3 years, you maybe say, hey, I'm going to look at schools that are looking at my last 60 credit hours. And so from that, you kind of pick the schools that really match where you're at and where you want to be, because you have to be realistic. But the thing is, there are so many options out there that I never want people to feel like, oh, shoot, my GPA is low, so I can't do anything about it. Like, that's the last thing we want you to feel. We actually want you to feel empowered. We want to show you guys all the different avenues that you guys can take as pre-PTs in order to accomplish, that goal of becoming a PT student. But you have to be able to find those schools and say, all right, these are my top 5. I have looked at their website. I know that because of my GPA, I can grind now, and I can show that by the time I apply, that I deserve to essentially be an applicant there. I deserve to be a student there. And then you look at, what their prereqs are. Schools have different prerequisites. You look at all those different details. And then, like Casey said, now you reverse engineer. Now you're able to say, okay, that's where I need to be. Those are their requirements. What do I need to do now in order to be where I need to be in a month, in order to be where I need to be in 6 months, in order to be where I need to be in a year, 2 years, by the time I go to apply? The thing is, you do not want to be surprised when it comes time to apply. And I think that's why a lot of people apply to 15 schools or more, which is a lot of money. And if that's what it takes, it's what it takes. But I don't think that should have to be the case. I think that, especially for you guys that are earlier on in your process, if you're able to find the 5 schools you want to go to and use that as your target for everything that you do, and then you reverse engineer where you are in order to be where, you know, they require you to be by the time you apply, you will be in a very, very good position to be potentially accepted to that program.
That's number one. How to be competitive. We're not going to go too deep into it. Just work on those 2, because that's enough.
Yeah.
That is enough to get you through these next few weeks, these next few months, the next cycle. So stick to those 2 grades and tailor yourself to the school you want to go to.
Yeah.
That's how you be competitive right there.
Exactly.
It's no easy shortcut. It's no use this template. It's no go to this specific open house, whatever it is. Just do those 2 things.
Yeah.
And you'll see you'll be far ahead of where you are now. So that's number one.
Exactly.
Number 2.
To add to that, Casey,
go ahead.
Real quick though, is I think we spend too much time comparing ourselves to others. Everyone's on a completely different journey, guys. And just because you see someone saying that they have a 3.6 GPA or 3.9 GPA, 3.4 GPA does not mean that they are now the standard. Obviously, the better your GPA, the better everything is. Obviously, yeah, like it does make things easier. But I think we spend a lot of times really comparing ourselves to other people. And what that does is it allows us to separate ourselves from the strategy of reverse engineering, right? We step out of our own lane and we start, you know, aligning ourselves with where other people are at. And if you got, all I'm saying is if you guys do that, it allows you to be distracted. And so what happens is now instead of being focused on the goal of getting into PT school, you guys end up, you know, setting yourself backwards because you're spending so much time thinking about that, being so concerned about the fact that maybe you're not as good as Sally or as good as Jim or as good as whoever else you're seeing, you know, that's maybe a little bit ahead of you. It doesn't really matter. There's so many ways to get into PT school. All we're trying to do is equip you guys with the mindset, with the tools that are necessary for you guys to stay focused. You guys, if like we always say, the 2 things you need to get into PT school is to have a strong why, a strong reason for getting into PT school, as well as the work ethic to make that happen. If you got that strong why, I mean, if you guys haven't listened to this week's podcast episode, go on right ahead and listen to it. Episode 25, one of the most motivational podcast episodes we've had. But with a strong why and the work ethic to actually make that happen and staying in our own lane, staying focused on our own journey and not really comparing ourselves to other people, we will put ourselves in a good place. And obviously, when y'all got concerns and stuff, that's when you reach out to Pre-PT Grind, because that's why we're here. But just a reminder, guys, we spend too much time concerning ourselves with what other people are going through, with their successes, with their ups and downs or whatever, and we try to put ourselves in their shoes, and that really sets us back more than anything else.
There you have it. There you have it. So that's number 1.
Yep.
Number 2 is uncertainty. Tell us, you make this great analogy, so break it down for the people who are new to us and the pre-doctor physical therapy group and everything we do about uncertainty. We do all this stuff, you know, we apply maybe once, maybe multiple times. Then we get to this point where we don't know if we're going to get accepted, how long it's going to take, how many times I'll have to reapply, what else differently can I do? So talk to us about feeling uncertain about this whole process.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, I'm going to start with the fact that uncertainty is absolutely normal. Bam. Like, it's absolutely normal. We all feel it. Like, I felt it. Casey felt it. We all feel uncertain when we get to that point. There comes a point when we're like, it's really out of our control. So that could be early on. But like I said, if it's early on, it's probably because you're comparing yourself to other people. But once you've gotten to the point of application and you've submitted everything, like, it's slightly uncertain because you've done everything in your power and now you're waiting. The analogy that Casey's talking about is one that I've referred to before of skydiving, being at the edge of the plane, doing everything you can to muster up the courage to get up there and prepare for jumping. And then at some point you have to jump. You have to say, all right, I have to, well, either you jump or the guy you're jumping with jumps for you. But you jump and you are in free fall for a certain amount of seconds. And in that certain amount of seconds, that's what that fear of uncertainty is. It's that free fall. But you guys have to understand that, especially with skydiving, when you guys have the parachutes finally open, that's when the scenery becomes absolutely amazing. That's when you are rewarded for essentially pushing far enough. But I think a lot of times we get in our own way as pre-PTs. We get in our own way because we say, oh man, like I'm uncertain, so that means that maybe PT is not for me. I'm uncertain, so maybe I should do PTA. I'm uncertain, so maybe I should just be a trainer. I'm uncertain. And that's not to dog on the other professions. All I'm saying is, if you guys have gotten to a point where you are convinced that the way you want to serve in your careers, the way you want to serve your communities, the way you want to serve people is through the avenue of physical therapy, don't let the fears get in the way. Don't let yourself get in your own way. Because when you guys have, I mean, these thoughts are real. And when we spend so much time on them, they consume us. And when they consume us, we end up essentially making moves that we might ultimately regret, like pulling out of, maybe the PT route. And I'm talking from like having friends that have done this, guys, and who have regretted it afterwards because they got in their own ways. But just know, we all felt it. It is absolutely normal to have that sense of fear, to have that sense of uncertainty as a pre-PT. Casey, what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, so even though we do have uncertainty, what can you do to minimize it? Justice talks about skydiving off the plane. What can you do to make sure your journey up to that skydiving point is taken care of? Make sure your ride to the airport or to that plane is, in check. Make sure you pick the right person you're skydiving with. Make sure the plane has gas in it. Make sure all these things. Then once you get to the top, then when you jump off, you can enjoy it then because everything is taken care of.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Well,
so just
no, it's just that like everything you just described was planned. You plan to go to the airport. You plan to actually have that trip. You plan to go up into the air. You plan to at some point jump. And so what that means is we can't play this game of let's just try it out. Let's just go for classes. Let's just submit our application. Like someone's told me that they just, applied to 4 schools that they just thought about. They were like, oh, that's a nice sounding school. That's a nice sounding school. Essentially no real game plan. And yes, you can potentially get very lucky, which is cool, I guess. But let's be realistic. Like there has to be some kind of a strategy. There has to be some way for you to be able to check mark yourself, for you to be able to say, okay, I made it to the airport on time. Okay, I am at this point on time so that I can make my flight, so that I can skydive today or whatever. And so for you, that might be bite-sized in terms of your academics. That might be saying, this semester, I got to change it. Like I was just on the call with somebody recently who was like, yo, my GPA has been pretty low for a long time, but I'm about to pull off my first 4.0 semester. You know why? Because they realized that they couldn't play this by just taking chances. They realized that they had to strategize. They realized that they actually wanted to be a physical therapist. And if you guys have been like on the pre-doc page, I think Greg Ty talked about when choosing to be a physical therapist, is it the idea of PT that appeals to you, or is it the fact that you actually are attracted to the actual profession and everything that it will bring out of you as a person? And so it's that strategy, breaking it up. Classes. I was talking with somebody today and they were like, Joseph, man, like this test like kind of, messed me up a little bit. And I'm like, yo, that's cool. Use it as motivation for your next test and the next test and the next test. So whatever that looks like for you, have a game plan. Have a game plan. Semester-wise, year-wise, what's it got to look like? Obviously, we already talked about picking your top 5 schools and having that wider aerial view game plan. But in terms of like bite size, like what does that look like? Does that look like, hey, next cycle I'm applying, what do I have to do? My observation hours, what do I have to do? My like all these different things. Like the other thing is even getting letters of recommendation. Like, are we waiting till the last minute to get our letters of recommendation? Because it's like going to a job, y'all. Like if if I hop into a car and I'm supposed to be at my job at 8 o'clock, Casey and I are originally from the Midwest. I'm in Florida now, but we're from the Midwest. So in the middle of winter, if there's ice on the ground, if it takes me 20 minutes to get to work and I leave 20 minutes early, you best believe that I'm probably going to be late. Because one, I might have to clean up my car. Two, there might be ice on the road. Three, drivers are crazy everywhere. So I don't know what's going to happen. Four, Casey's in Chicago. So who knows if there's going to be an accident, right? Like, we have to be ready for that. So with every move that you make, if you guys get letters of recommendation, if you guys got to apply, don't wait till the last minute, but have it be part of your strategy. Write it down. Talk to us if y'all need to. But we don't want you guys to get to that point and say, man, I've put in all this work, but oops, I didn't plan well enough. Oops, I didn't apply early enough. Oops, now I don't have all my letters of recommendations or whatever. Like, I haven't, maybe a PT got sick and I needed it tomorrow, but they got sick today. The fact that you're trying to get it now means that you may have waited a little late, right? And so, and I'm not trying to be mean, guys, but I'm just saying, like, especially for you that have time, for those of y'all that are a year or more away from applying, or maybe even applying now, like, look at it that way. Plan ahead, but strategize. And that's how you conquer the fear. All I know is when I'm scared of something, if I have a game plan, I'm good. I'm good because I know all I have to do is follow that game plan, and it will lead me to where I need to be.
There it is. I mean, that's it. And for those of you applying next cycle, just think of it like this. Next cycle is here already. You should already be strategizing, like, when you should take your GRE, when you should get your letters of recommendation. If you're applying the third week of July or the second week of August, you should have on your calendar when that PTCast essay prompt comes out. Yep. Everything should be put in place from now. From November, what's today, the 16th or something? 15th? 16th, November 16th.
Yep.
You should have, or you should be planning everything for July 1st or whatever that day PTCast comes out. Because it's already here. Believe it or not, it's already here. I don't want to see who's on here. I'm not going to go see who's on here now, but I don't want to see some questions, some last minute questions in the pre-DPT students page next year if you're on this broadcast right now, or if you're listening to this on replay. I don't want to see your question on November 16th, 2018 saying, can somebody read my essay? My deadline is next week. We're warning you now. That's how you minimize uncertainty.
You stepping on some toes, brother.
Make sure your gas in your car is filled up. Make sure your luggage is packed. Make sure you pick the right person you're skydiving with. Make sure you got your videographer going. So once you get to that point, when you click submit, you can relax and you're not anxious. Well, you're going to be anxious anyways, but you're not overly anxious. You're not, messaging us, messaging your friends. Have you heard from this school? Have you heard from that school? Of course, you're going to feel that, but it'll be drastically minimized. So that's number 2.
Perfect. And number 3, taking hold of your destiny as a pre-PT student. The bottom line is, guys, it's like, you guys are the drivers. When you guys are on your journey, you have to realize that you guys are the drivers. So whatever it takes, be the first to take initiative, not waiting for someone else to kind of push you along. We've built a platform where we really want to give you guys all the tools you need. And we have a launch coming up like soon, like the beta version is starting in like a week. But we have a launch that's going to come to y'all soon, where you guys are going to see something that will give you guys those tools. But we want to give you guys all the tools that you guys need. The pre-doctor physical therapy students page, pre-PT grind as a whole, is really meant for that. But you guys have to realize that you guys are the drivers. You guys determine the needs. You guys determine what you want. But to do that, you have to be able to reflect on where you are in your journey. You have to be able to reflect on what, like, the requirements are for the schools that you want to apply to, what your game plan is, so that when you guys bring us into the game, it's like, yo, you're locked in, we're locked in, and then from there it's just unstoppable. Because the goal is to get into PT school, right? And so it's really like the destiny, like, you hold the destiny. You guys have full control. So what does that mean? If you guys have questions, you reach out. What does that mean? If you guys need to find out information about a given university, you go look it up. You know, like you ask people that like when you go to ask questions, you ask questions that are deeper. So for example, if you go to an interview and you're asking them questions that they have on their front page of their website, they're going to say, well, this person didn't really do their research, right? But that's when you're really ready to take yourself to the next phase, the next level of being a pre-PT, when you do all the work on the front end. I think Jerry Durham really talks about it on a podcast that we did with him, just doing more work on the front end. And then when you guys are ready to really take your stuff up a notch and really secure and get everything that you need to really put it all together, that's when you really step out and reach out. But you guys are doing phenomenal. We're going to continue serving you guys endlessly. But Casey, is there anything you want to say about that before we conclude?
You pretty much hit it. I mean, it's your responsibility. It's your career. It's your life. It's your PT school. However, if you want to do the PT route, if you want to do PTA, if you're, you know, a non-traditional student and you want to transition, it's your destiny. It's all your destiny. Your final destination is all within your control. Whether that's, you know, pediatrics, outpatient, acute care, making $70,000, making $250,000 as a PT, whatever it is, you have full control. Whatever you want to do. So how do you do that? You take action right now. And that kind of blends in to the uncertainty topic that we just went over. But you hit it right on, you hit the nail on the head. So
yeah, man.
That's it.
But for those of y'all that are ready to take action, we have everything y'all need to actually make it happen. That's all. Like, that's all we need. We just need people that are ready to take action, and then it's a wrap. It's game over. Because we are here to really take y'all to that notch. But we can only take y'all if you really want it. If you really want to do it, if you're really ready to kind of put everything that's necessary, that's going to be required to make it happen. All right, y'all. That's another episode of the Pre-PT Chat. Once again, I'm sorry for my voice. Just flu, all that stuff.
Sorry for my internet. Hopefully the audio is coming out clear. I know I'm jumpy on the screen, but hopefully you guys can hear me. So we'll try something different or see if this works next week, but we're just testing things out. We're taking control of our destiny like we told y'all to do. So
always, man, always. Y'all have a good evening. If you've not gotten the podcast, get it. If you haven't gotten our top 10 tips to get into PT school, go on our website, pre-ptgrind.com, and you guys get your own free copy. Y'all have a good Thursday. It's been real. Bye.